Imagine standing in a place where a single wrong move could start a war between two nuclear-armed nations. A place where soldiers stare at each other every day. Only meters apart. No gunfire. No shouting. Just silence. And tension. On one side, heavily armed soldiers stare across a thin line. On the other side, another army watches back, equally alert. This is not a temporary military standoff. It has been this way for more than 70 years. Welcome to the Korean Demilitarized Zone. The most dangerous border on Earth. A place where a single mistake could ignite a war between nuclear powers. But to understand why this narrow strip of land remains one of the world's most dangerous flashpoints, we must travel back to the end of World War II. For centuries, Korea existed as a single nation with a shared culture, language, and history. But everything changed in 1945. At the end of World War II, Japan's empire collapsed, ending its occupation of Korea. Suddenly, the Korean peninsula needed a new political future. Two emerging superpowers stepped in. The United States would administer the southern half of Korea. The Soviet Union would control the north. The dividing line was drawn hastily along the 38th parallel. At the time, it was meant to be temporary. But temporary divisions have a strange way of becoming permanent. By 1948, two separate governments had formed. In the north, the communist state of North Korea emerged under Kim Il-sung. In the south, the democratic government of South Korea was established. Two nations now claim to represent the entire Korean peninsula, and both believed reunification was inevitable. On June 25, 1950, the fragile peace shattered. North Korean forces surged across the 38th parallel, launching a full-scale invasion of the South. The Korean War had begun. Within weeks, North Korean troops captured Seoul and pushed deep into the South. The situation looked desperate. But then, the United Nations intervened. A multinational force led by the United States entered the conflict. The war quickly escalated into one of the largest battles of the Cold War. Soon, hundreds of thousands of Chinese troops joined the fight to support North Korea. What began as a regional conflict had now drawn in global powers. For 3 brutal years, the war raged across the peninsula. Cities were destroyed. Villages vanished. Families were separated forever. By the time the guns finally fell silent in 1953, millions had died. And yet the war did not officially end. Instead of a peace treaty, the opposing sides signed an armistice agreement. This agreement created a buffer zone separating the two armies. It became known as the Korean Demilitarized Zone. The DMZ stretches approximately 250 kilometers across the peninsula and is about 4 kilometers wide. Despite its name, the DMZ is one of the most heavily militarized areas on Earth. Thousands of troops guard both sides. Artillery batteries sit hidden in fortified positions. Landmines remain buried throughout the region. Observation towers monitor every movement. And directly in the center lies a small village called Panmunjom, where soldiers from both sides face each other every day. The tension here is constant, because technically, the two Koreas are still at war. Inside the joint security area at Panmunjom, soldiers stand face-to-face across a narrow concrete line. The distance between them is sometimes only a few meters. Every movement is carefully controlled. Guards maintain rigid postures designed to project strength and discipline. South Korean soldiers often wear sunglasses to conceal their eyes. North Korean troops stare silently from the other side. No conversation is allowed. No gestures. Even the smallest misunderstanding could trigger an international incident. Over the decades, the DMZ has witnessed numerous confrontations. Defectors have attempted daring escapes across the border. In some cases, they were pursued by gunfire. At other times, soldiers from both sides have clashed during patrols. Each incident raises the same terrifying possibility. What if one confrontation spirals out of control? Today, the stakes surrounding the Korean border are higher than ever. Over the past 2 decades, North Korea has developed nuclear weapons and long-range missiles. Under the leadership of Kim Jong Un, the country has conducted multiple missile tests. Some of these missiles are capable of traveling thousands of kilometers. This has transformed the Korean conflict from a regional issue into a global security concern. Meanwhile, South Korea maintains a powerful alliance with the United States, which stations troops and military equipment on the peninsula. This means any new conflict could quickly escalate beyond Korea. What begins as a border incident could involve multiple nuclear powers. And that is precisely why the world watches the DMZ so closely. Yet, despite all the weapons and tension, something unexpected has happened inside the DMZ. Because civilians are not allowed to live there, the land has remained largely untouched by human development. Forests have grown thick. Rivers flow freely. Rare wildlife has returned. Animals such as deer, cranes, and wild boars now roam through areas once scarred by war. Ironically, the most dangerous border on Earth has also become one of the most unusual wildlife sanctuaries in Asia. Nature has quietly reclaimed the battlefield. For more than 7 decades, the Korean peninsula has remained divided. Families separated by war have grown old without seeing each other again. Soldiers continue to guard the border day and night. The tension remains. The weapons remain. And the armistice that ended the fighting in 1953 still holds. For now. But the question remains unanswered. Will the Korean peninsula one day reunite peacefully? Or will the silence of the Korean Demilitarized Zone eventually be broken again? Only time will tell. If you found this story fascinating, subscribe for more deep-dive geopolitical documentaries, because around the world, there are places where history is still unfolding, and where the next global crisis could begin at any moment.